The following video contains themes of death and bereavement in relation to children and young people. Caution is advised as the content might be upsetting to some viewers. Children understand and react to deaths differently depending on their age and stage of development. This video will explain what you might expect to see at different ages and stages following a death. We are all different and grief will look different for us all. So you might notice that your child's experience isn't the same as what we have described, and that's okay. From birth to 2 years, children have no concept of death, but they'll notice that someone is missing and experience a feeling of separation. You might notice that they seem generally distressed or have changes or disturbances to eating and sleeping patterns. You can help your child by keeping their routine as similar as possible to what it was like before their person died. Children start to become aware of the concept of death between the ages of 3 and 5 years, but often believe that it is temporary and that their person can come back. Young children can believe that they caused the death with their words or behaviour. This is because they experience what is known as magical thinking, and believe that their thoughts, actions and feelings can affect their environment. Your child might be confused, experience sleep problems like nightmares or bedwetting. They might ask lots of questions and they might ask the same questions a number of times. They might sometimes seem totally unaffected and at other times they might be very distressed. This is because children need to take breaks from their grief. It's really difficult to feel intense emotions for long stretches of time. You can help your child by being honest and consistent when answering their questions about the death. This might feel exhausting for you at times, so remember to look after yourself as well. Remember to use straightforward language like dead and died. Using language like they are sleeping or they are lost can seem gentler to adults, but it can be confusing for children because sleeping people wake up and lost things can be found. If children believe that they caused the death, you can validate their feelings by saying something like, "It must be so hard for you to feel that way," and you can reassure them that nothing that they said or did could have caused the death. From the ages of 6 to 9 years old, children will begin to understand that death is permanent and that their person can't come back. Children can experience magical thinking until the age of about 10, and so may still think that they caused the death. Children might start to wonder and worry about who will care for them if their parents or caregivers die. It can be helpful to be open about this, but remember also to reassure your child and remind them that it is unlikely that you will die soon. You might say, "I try really hard to look after myself and stay safe so that I will be alive for a long time. I see the doctor when I am sick and I try to exercise and eat healthy food. If I were to die though, I've spoken with your granny and we decided that she would look after you." This should help to comfort your child by giving them a practical solution to their worry, helping them to feel they are not alone in their worry, and at the same time helping them understand that you are doing all you can to keep yourself safe and well. You might notice that your child is angry or confused at this age. It is important to continue to answer questions honestly and consistently. It also might help them to find safe ways to manage difficult feelings, such as physical activities and colouring in. Children between the ages of 10 and 12 years will understand the finality and permanence of death. This is often when children start to realise that death can happen to anybody and at any age. It might become difficult to talk about death, and your child might act as if they are okay and coping well, even when they are not. You might notice that your child is experiencing big feelings like anger, anxiety, shock, and denial, and they might begin to turn to their peers for support more often. Your child might become very curious about death and may ask lots of questions. Even though some questions might catch you off guard, it is important to be honest with your child. This will help them to feel safe and to make meaning out of what has happened. You can help your child by creating opportunities to talk about the death. When we say, "You can talk to me at any time," we are putting the responsibility to start the conversation onto the child. If instead we say, "Would you like to talk about your person today?" Or, "I was wondering if you had any questions about the death I could try to answer for you," we are creating an opportunity for conversation. If your child refuses your invitation to have a conversation about the death, you can let them know that you will be there when they are ready. From the age of 13, young people have a concrete understanding of death and might start to display anxieties regarding the safety of themselves and others in their lives. It is important to create space to have open conversation about these concerns. It can be tempting to protect your child by saying, "You don't need to worry about that," or "I'm sure it will all be fine." But when we say things like that, we aren't addressing the issue or validating the feeling. Instead, it can be helpful to acknowledge how difficult the worries are to have, about what is causing the worries and what might help. You might find that your teenager has developed unsafe coping strategies and is taking more risks. Helping them to identify their feelings and find safe ways to cope can help them to replace risky coping strategies with safe and helpful ones. Remember that we are all different, so what helps you won't necessarily help your child as well. Try to help them to focus on their own interests and how they can use them to manage big feelings, such as, "I've noticed that you've been having a hard time lately. What do you think might help?" Asking questions like these are empowering, as it allows young people to come up with their own coping strategies rather than rescuing them. If they don't know what might help, you can give them options based on what you know about them. Like, "I wonder if you'd like to go to the cinema this evening, or maybe we can take the dog for a walk," or "Just let me know if you'd like some time to yourself." This still allows the young person to make a choice, but can also help them recognise what is helpful or unhelpful depending on how they're feeling. As mentioned earlier, this video explains how a child or young person who has been bereaved might respond at certain ages and stages. But many of these grief reactions are common across the age groups, meaning that they could be experienced at any time. Everyone is different and we will all grieve in our own way. Children and young people grow up with the death and may revisit it at different points in their lives. For example, when there is a significant life event or as their understanding of the death changes as they grow and learn. Key points to remember when supporting a grieving child are: be honest and consistent. Use concrete language like dead and died, and avoid phrases like lost and gone to sleep, which can be confusing. Be prepared to repeat the story. Create opportunities to talk about the death. Acknowledge the grief of your child. Offer opportunities to develop coping strategies. And remember that everyone is different. Not every child or young person who grieves will need bereavement support, but Richmond's Hope is here for the ones who do. Please get in touch if you would like more information or advice, or to refer a child or young person.